Sticky steps. In our fast-changing world, you will have many situations where you discover that you're what we call lost in the fog. In other words, you have no idea exactly what to do, and you probably haven't got a really good idea of how you would do it, even if you could figure that out. And sometimes you don't even know why. Lost in the fog makes it difficult to plan unless you know this particular method called sticky steps. So how does sticky steps work? Well, what happens is you pretend you've managed to achieve whatever your goal is, and I'll show you how that's done. Work out how you got there, and you use that as a route to make a plan which you can implement quite effectively. You should be able to make a sticky step plan in 15 minutes. So the best way to think about it is we start off with where we are now, and we're going to take some very sticky steps into the future, and we're dreaming of this point here, but that's your dream. It's always useful with sticky steps to get a number of different views and have a discussion about which one might it be and where should we focus. And then you can decide, no, actually, the one we should all focus on is, and you phrase it as a sentence so that everyone's clear on where you're heading. Now, the reality, of course, is that everyone will have their own idea on how to get there. What are the steps which could get us to that end point? And there'll be a whole bunch of steps which are possible. The trick with sticky steps is to eliminate the ones which you could do and replace them with the ones which you must do. So by focusing on the ones which we must do, we gain perspective over how do we get to that end point. So that's really what we would call step one. We'd say, well, these are all the things we could do. We're not going to discuss those. We're just going to focus on the ones we must do in order to get to that end point over there. And so we highlight the ones we must do. Then the next question is, well, what's the sequence in which we do them? And we might say, well, we set off from here, and the first one we do is this one over here, and then we go up here, then we double back on ourselves, and then by going through there, we end up at the end point we want. So that's about sure that we can schedule. So step one is we actually make sure we can gain perspective. What does the future look like? And step two is how on earth do we schedule? So the sticky step pet over here with all the instructions on it. So step number one, discuss and agree the outcome required before you start. We've talked about that. Have one coordinator to avoid duplication. Start each post-it with a verb in the past tense. Why? Because you'll find that you're more likely to put down actions if you're working the past tense than if you think you're creating work for yourself. So work out what you must have done. Again, each one of those stickies starts with a verb, a doing word in the past tense. Then complete the sentence, writing down the activities you must do. 5 to 10 prerequisites. Put them in a sequence to see how you did it, my purple line. And then for each of those, if they're too big, repeat the process until you get to tasks. So in this particular example, which you'll probably recognize, we've discovered that many organizations, they really want to have implemented hybrid working. In order to have implemented hybrid working, okay? And then someone says, no, 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 it's not about implementing hybrid working. It's about stopping people quitting the current world and going off and doing their own thing. And someone says, no, no, my idea is that we must have fixed the Great Resignation. And someone else says, no, we must have solved the Great Resignation. And someone else says, we must make people happier by no longer forcing them to stare at Zoom screens and Team screens. So you'll get all these different points of view, and then you have a discussion, or you vote, or you discuss, and see which one will give you most value. In this particular case, what we've decided is that the one which will give us the most value of all is this idea of solving the Great Resignation. So now relax and think about it and try and feel how you would feel if you had solved the Great Resignation. It feels great, doesn't it? Make sure you get that emotion, because you're going to use that emotion as the energy to drive the process of working out the details of your steps. So here we are again. This is a blank one without the instructions. So I'll now talk it through. It's less busy for you. So let's start off by where we started, which is really everybody putting their ideas up about what could be the cross, in other words, where we're heading in order to have done those. And we've already decided we're not going to do any of these others. We're just going to focus on solving the Great Resignation. Great, well done. Well, what must we have done to have solved the Great Resignation? Well, we probably need to make sure that our senior people can actually lead whatever solution we come up with, because that tends to be the bottleneck. If they can't lead, it all falls over anyway. We probably need to identify what organizational policies we're implementing, which is driving people away. We probably need to clarify the interactions, mood, value hierarchy, and stories, otherwise known as culture, to underpin this future attractive organization. we probably need to have understood why people are resigning, and maybe we need to understand why we're driving the corporate policies which are driving resignation. So those seem like 5 really good things. What did I say the next step was? We've looked at that, we've selected the must steps. Oh, I know, sequence them. So there's a number of ways you could sequence them: early to late, easy to hard. Let's do early to late first. Easy to hard you might do if you want to gain credibility. Getting stakeholders involved might be important to release funds for you to do more. So which one of these are we going to do first? Clarifying the future culture or ensuring our leaders can do it? I think that's the right way around. How about this one? Understanding why we're driving we probably need to do that before we get towards the culture. Identifying what policies we're implementing which are driving them away. We probably need to do that in advance. So let me shuffle these along a little bit so we can get them in a sequence and see if the sequence makes sense. Understood why they're resigning. That probably comes before that one, before that one, before that one here. So in order to have solved the great resignation up here, we must have understood why people are resigning, then identify what policies we're using to drive them away, then understood why we're using have those policies in the first place, then clarify the interactions we'll need in the future, and then make sure our senior people can do it, and then we're good to go and we've solved the great resignation. But each of these is enormous. I don't know how you do them. So we repeat the same process. In order to have understood why they're resigning, what must we do? We must have probably interviewed what we call obnoxious customers. If you know about Obnox, the pet, you know obnoxious customers are people who demand more from you than you can deliver. And power users are ones who love you more than you can do. So find people who are either so fed up with the system they want to leave immediately and resign, or can't see any problem at all. So that would help us understand it. We probably need to interview some of the people who already left to see what their thoughts are. Is it really the grass really green on the other side? And we probably also need to have looked at general data from other organizations so we can get a fuller view. So if we've done that, we've probably dealt with this by dealing with these tasks, which are manageable, although this one is huge. So let's go to the next one. In order to have identified what organizational policies, we probably need to look at our vision and strategy to find out the mismatches. To have understood why we're driving people away, we probably need to review our incentives packages to see what we're doing which is wrong there. We probably need to have established the beat, behavior, emotions, action, thinking, so we can get to the cultural elements, and then we've got to figure out how we get the senior people to actually deliver it. So I'll put that there for us. So over that sequence there, you now can see that to get here, we've not only got the top level big actions, big steps, I'll call those big leaps, we've also got the individual sort of tiptoe steps as well over here. So that was step one. That's the first stage, the aqua one. Now let's figure out how we schedule it. So I've got the same list here, and I'm just going to put it on this rather amazing timetable. We've got week 1, week 2, week 3, 4. Month 2, month 3. You'll notice further into the future, the time gets squeezed together because we want detail close up and we want understanding of perspective away. So interviewing some people who've left, we could do that this week. Let's get on and do that. Interviewing the current, we'll do that this week. We'll get some phone calls going. Look to data from other organizations. It might take a while. We might need to do a search and talk to people from other organizations. We'll put that in week 2. So by sort of week 2-ish, we should have understood why they are resigning. So if I color all these ones up here, then you'll know they're all connected together. So let me just change them all to, choose me a color. Choose me a color you like. Let's change them all to aqua. There you go. That's good. Okay. So let's have a look at what else we have to do. We have to identify what the organizational policies we're implementing which are driving them away. Well, we can't really do that until we've interviewed them. That's probably starting week 2. We will then have to review the packages, which will probably happen the following week. So let's color those ones up as well. What should we go for? Properties, let's choose, what would be a good color? Let's choose brown. How about that? Okay, so brown it is. Okay, and then we'll probably want to understand why we're driving these corporate actions. Well, we can't do that until we've got further down here. So through week 3, 4, we probably need to revisit our strategy. That's probably month 2. I'm going to do the same trick as I did before and just choose a different color so that you can differentiate the different groups of activity. Lime is good. I like lime. Okay. And then we need to have clarified the cultural aspects. That's month 2 at the earliest, I would have said. Let's make that purple. And then by month 3, we're starting to look at our senior people. And by quarter 2, probably starts to think about what we need to do in terms of their behaviors, emotions, actions, and thinking. And if we can pull all that off, then really by quarter 2 going to quarter 3, we would have solved the great resignation. That is Sticky Steps. And good luck. And I hope it makes your ability to change, to actually accelerate execution much better. Thank you.